Unlike many missionaries of her time, Mary didn't isolate herself or demand that the locals adopt European ways of life. Instead, she immersed herself in the culture, learning the Efik language and living among the people as one of them. She traded her missionary dresses for simple local clothing, ate the same food as the villagers, and walked barefoot like they did. Her efforts earned her the nickname the White Queen of Okoyong, a title that reflected the immense respect and love the people had for her. Mary Slessor, the Flame of Calabar. Welcome to today's episode. Here at Voices from the Past, we uncover the story of one of history's most extraordinary women, a fearless trailblazer who dared to challenge cultural barriers, fight against injustice, and dedicate her life to saving the vulnerable. The story of Mary Slessor, a Scottish missionary who rose from obscurity to become a beacon of hope in Africa. A native of Aberdeen, born on the 2nd of December 1848. She died in Calabar, Nigeria, on the 13th of January 1915, at the age of 66. John Slessor, Robert Slessor, Janie Slessor, and Susan Slessor are some of her siblings. The parents of her are Mary Slessor and Robert Slessor. Her life is a testament to how compassion and courage can transform the world. Humble beginnings, a life of resilience. Mary Slessor was born on December 2nd, 1848, in Aberdeen, Scotland, into a life of poverty and hardship. The second of 7 children, she grew up in the shadow of her father's alcoholism, which often plunged the family into financial instability. Her father, a shoemaker, struggled to provide, forcing Mary's mother to become the backbone of the household. Despite their bleak circumstances, Mary's mother was a deeply devout Christian and instilled in her children a strong sense of faith, hope, and resilience. The family later moved to Dundee, a bustling industrial city, where Mary's childhood took on a grim reality. At the tender age of 11, Mary had to abandon her schooling and take up work in a jute mill to support her family. Her days were long and arduous, spent in dangerous, noisy conditions. A typical day involved standing for hours at clattering machines, inhaling dust-laden air, and enduring the constant risk of injury from the fast-moving looms. On one occasion, Mary narrowly escaped a serious accident when her fingers became caught in the machinery, a stark reminder of the perils faced by child laborers of the time. Despite these harsh conditions, Mary's mind was not confined to the mill. She spent her limited free time reading voraciously, feeding her growing hunger for knowledge. Her greatest inspirations were the Bible and the stories of missionaries like David Livingstone, who explored Africa and brought Christianity to its remote corners. Mary often read by candlelight after her exhausting shifts, dreaming of a life beyond the mills. Though her circumstances were meager, Mary harbored a bold dream, to one day leave her life of toil and serve as a missionary in Africa. She longed to bring hope and healing to the people she had read about in missionary journals, people who faced unimaginable suffering. For a young girl from the slums of Dundee, this dream seemed impossible. But Mary's faith told her otherwise. Answering the call, a journey to Africa. In 1876, at the age of 28, Mary Slessor took the first bold step toward fulfilling her dream. After years of preparation, prayer, and self-education, she was accepted by the Presbyterian Church's Missionary Society. With little more than a strong spirit and unshakable determination, she boarded a ship bound for Calabar, a region in present-day Nigeria. The journey itself was perilous. Mary traveled aboard a steamship, enduring weeks at sea. The ship was cramped, with passengers confined to small shared quarters. Seasickness, storms, and the oppressive heat made the voyage a test of endurance. Mary often spent time in prayer and reflection, mentally preparing herself for the challenges ahead. When Mary arrived in the coastal town of Duke Town, the gateway to Calabar, she was introduced to a world vastly different from anything she had known. From there, she journeyed upriver to her mission station. The lush, humid environment was teeming with life: tropical rainforests, winding rivers, and vibrant communities of the Efik people. However, the region was also rife with dangers, from deadly diseases like malaria and yellow fever, to the threat of tribal conflicts. The Efik people who lived in the region were warm and hospitable, but their society was governed by deeply entrenched traditions and beliefs. Some of these customs were brutal and shocking to Mary, particularly the widespread practice of killing twins. Twins were believed to be cursed, a sign of evil spirits. Mothers who gave birth to twins were ostracized, and the babies were often abandoned in the forest to die. This practice broke Mary's heart, and she resolved to put an end to it. However, as a foreign woman in a land governed by tribal chiefs and ancient customs, she faced significant resistance. Mary knew she couldn't force change. She needed to earn the trust of the people first. Living among the people, the missionary with a difference. Unlike many missionaries of her time, Mary didn't isolate herself or demand that the locals adopt European ways of life. Instead, she immersed herself in the culture, learning the Efik language and living among the people as one of them. She traded her missionary dresses for simple local clothing, ate the same food as the villagers, and walked barefoot like they did. This humility and respect for their way of life quickly earned her the trust and admiration of the community. A typical day for Mary was one of tireless service. She would rise at dawn to pray and prepare for the challenges ahead. Her mornings were spent teaching children, many of whom were orphans she had taken under her wing. Her afternoons often involved long treks through the jungle to visit remote villages, where she would provide medical care, share the gospel, and mediate disputes. Evenings were spent writing letters to her supporters back home, chronicling her work and the needs of the mission. Mary didn't just preach the gospel, she practiced it. She became a teacher, a nurse, a mediator, and a mother to those who had no one else. Her home became a refuge for abandoned children, particularly twins who had been left to die. She adopted many of these children herself, raising them as her own. One of her adopted children, Janie, became her closest companion and assistant in her later years. Mary also took on the formidable role of peacemaker, mediating disputes between warring tribes and negotiating with local chiefs. She showed extraordinary bravery, walking unarmed into dangerous situations to prevent violence and advocate for justice. Among the clans she helped reconcile were the Okoyong and the Ibibio, both of whom came to respect her wisdom and impartiality. Legacy, the light that never dimmed. Mary Slessor's work in Calabar spanned nearly 40 years. Over the course of her life, she saved countless lives, helped abolish the practice of killing twins, and laid the groundwork for education and healthcare in the region. Her efforts earned her the nickname, the White Queen of Okoyong, a title that reflected the immense respect and love the people had for her. Her achievements went beyond immediate humanitarian efforts. Mary established schools and clinics, empowering the local population through education and healthcare. She advocated for the rights of women and children, challenging oppressive practices and promoting equality. Her influence extended to the colonial government, which often sought her counsel in matters of local governance. Mary never sought fame or recognition. She remained humble and dedicated, even as her health deteriorated due to repeated bouts of malaria. In 1915, at the age of 66, Mary passed away in Calabar, leaving behind a legacy of compassion and courage that continues to inspire people to this day. Her story reminds us that one person, no matter how humble their beginnings, can make an extraordinary difference in the world. Mary Slessor didn't just bring Christianity to Calabar, she brought hope, dignity, and humanity to countless lives. Thank you for tuning into this episode of our podcast. Mary Slessor's life is a powerful example of what it means to live with purpose and passion. Let her story inspire you to make a difference, no matter how small, in your own corner of the world.